Hey, I'm Mark Edward Lewis. Welcome to the Cinema Sound Volume on mixing. When all the elements come together and the immersion finally takes place. Non-linear editors are not the place to do your audio editing. That's what we do in digital audio workstations. The best way to become a better filmmaker is to reverse engineer the audio of the masters. That something is too loud doesn't mean that it actually is too loud. There's other considerations than volume. There's frequencies that are too loud. And of course, there's the panoramic spectrum. Always mix in cinematic 5.1 or higher surround. So what is the process of mixing? It's not exactly intuitive, so I'm just gonna run it down for you really fast so you kind of start getting it into your system. The first thing you wanna do is take all the little files that have been organized and make a backup of them. Then make your dialogue sound great. Then you're gonna discover, after you make it sound great, that you've got other problems with it. And then you're gonna fix those. It's sort of like fixing problems from fixing problems. And then if you have a computer that's not really fast enough, just burn the whole dialogue track into one long contiguous track and then mute those other ones. And you'll at least free up your computer resources from having to deal with dialogue and plugins and all that other stuff. You generally want to keep your dialogue in the center. And when I say generally, I mean all the time. The biggest problem with dialogue is not that it's too loud or too soft, it's mixing stuff in with it, right? You've all had trouble trying to mix music with dialogue. How do you get the emotional content of the dialogue loud enough to be emotional without drowning the dialogue? It's a few niggling frequencies that your brain is super sensitive to that we want to find and eradicate, or at least lower. Bottom line, on average, dialogue mixed at -20 on your little LED, your dialogue bus or whatever it is, will get you a -23 dB LUFS setting. That's cinema. For DVD, it's not really a law, it's more like a standard. My suggestion, keep it between -9 and -12, and you'll be on par with everybody else. And then for the internet, as loud as you can possibly push it without distortion. Now that we have our dialogue tracks mixed and nominalized at a legal level, the rest of the parts we can just basically balance to taste to that dialogue track. All the sounds, the music, the ambiences, the Foley, the sound effects, all of it are basically gonna surround the overall level of the story or the dialogue. Ambiences are really the difference between a professional production and an amateur production. Ambiences are the birds in the background, things that are just your brain is tuning out all the time. Two super important words: very low. So low that you forget they're there. And if you've mixed them right, you do forget they're there. Any stereo pair should generally have the same ambiences. And generally we don't pan ambiences, you don't really have to do that. But what happens if you have surf in the shot and you do a reversal? What do we do with our ambiences then? There's like no rules. Mix them anywhere, anyhow, any volume, whatever you want to do, man. Have a great time. That said, yes, I have rules. Have an excellent reason for muffling dialogue with sound effects. Have an excellent reason for putting sound effects in the back. Have an excellent reason for not putting EQ or some plugin on every one of your sound effects. Have an excellent reason for not using notch EQ to layer your sound effects into the dialogue and music. Have an excellent reason for keeping your sound effects in the center channel. Mixing Foley is a critical part of immersion, which means it's a critical part of your ability to put your audience to subconscious sleep, which is everything. It's because it's going to be just above the ambiences, right? The ambiences are super low and subconscious, and so are the Foley bits, but they're just louder. And they're in the center channel always, or wherever you've got that dialogue. If you've panned it around, that's where the Foley goes. There is no defense for not having some kind of EQ on every Foley sound. Just like in dialogue, distance to camera mixing is super important with Foley. Gun Foley. If you take a gun and even if it's well made and you shake it, right, it shouldn't make noise, except guns always do on camera, and they should. And music mixing is not that hard, really. Music is really taking your stems, dropping them in, and then figuring out how that emotive sense that music brings is balanced with story and immersion. I want a mix that sounds great, that feels like a movie before I drop that music in. And all you should have to do is ride that music up and down with a fader, some notch EQ here and there, some pan positioning, and you ought to be done. But there's one person you don't want to bring to the mix. That's the composer. Why? Because all they want is one thing. Yeah, louder music. What's the most important thing we should be thinking about in a mix? There's three things. You want to be thinking about the immersion, you want to be thinking about the plot or the story, and you want to be thinking about the emotion. And now what? And now what? And now what? And that's the way you mix.